Satyamev Jayate. In this topic, we are going to work on a very specific range called as the Kailash Range. So let's get started. So as you can see, this is the whole of the Indian subcontinent. This is the Tropic of Cancer that is passing through India. And at the top, you can find the Himalayas. Now, essentially, when you think about Himalayas, you think Himalayas as a superstructure, super single structure, or let's say a monolith. But Himalayas can be divided into 4 or 5 parts. Okay, as you can see, that's Himalayas. You see them as a very single structure, just one structure. But that's not true. Now remember this section, I keep on repeating again. Now, if you have been through this section, you can just skip forward, right? So, as you can see, the Himalayas essentially is divided into 4 parts. The Transhimalayas, the Great Himalayas, the Mid Himalayas, and the Outer Himalayas. We essentially are interested for the time being in the Transhimalayas. So, this is how the Himalayas looks like, okay? Earlier, it looks like this, right? A single structure. But it actually looks like this. On the top, the very northernmost, or at the north, we have the Transhimalayas. Then we have the Great Himalayas, we have the Mid Himalayas, and then we have at the last the Outer Himalayas. There is something called as the Northeastern Himalayas also, but we will deal with that later. Essentially, now these are the 4 ones, important ones. Now, as you can see at the top, you have the Trans-Himalayas, right? So, let's focus on the Trans-Himalayas. So, this is the Trans-Himalayas, okay? And this type of Himalayas goes through the entirety of India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and pretty much parts of China. Essentially, that was Tibet. So, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and China. Trans-Himalayas are located essentially in these regions. Now, the interesting thing that you have to know is the Trans-Himalayas is itself divided into few parts. Okay, first we have the division of Himalayas as Trans, Great, Mid, and Outer Himalayas. Now the Trans-Himalayas is itself divided into the Karakoram Range, the Ladakh Range, the Zanskar Range, and the Kailash Range. So let's have a look. So once again, we have the whole of Himalayas, okay, Trans, Great, Mid, and Outer. And the Trans-Himalayas is divided into the Karakoram Range, the Ladakh Range, the Zanskar Range, and the Kailash Range, right? So essentially, we are interested in this part, Trans-Himalayas, and the most important topic at this point, that is the Kailash Range. We are essentially interested in the Kailash Range, okay? Once again, that's the Himalayas. The Himalayas are divided into 4 parts. The Trans-Himalayas, which is at the northern part. Then we have the Great Himalayas, where we can find the Mount Everest. Then we can find the Mid Himalayas, and finally at the last, the Outer Himalayas. Trans-Himalayas is divided into 4 parts. The Karakoram Range, the Ladakh Range, Zanskar Range, and the Kailash Range, right? So let's have a look into the Trans-Himalayas first. Okay, Karakoram, Ladakh, Zanskar, and the Kailash Range. So as you can see, this is the Trans-Himalayas, right? It covers Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and China. This is the whole of the Trans-Himalayas. Now, at the very corner, you can see some parts of Himalayas there. That is also Trans-Himalayas at the very corner. If you can't see, then it's okay. Fine. Now, let's see the divisions of the Trans-Himalayas. So, this is how it looks like. Okay. First, we have at the very top, the Karakoram Range. Then, we have the Ladakh Range. Then, we have the Zanskar Range. And finally, there is a tail called as the Kailash Range. Okay. The Karakoram Range, Ladakh Range, Zanskar Range, and the Kailash Range. We are interested in this topic, the Kailash Range, right? So, now remember this, Kailash Range is essentially located in Tibet. Kailash Range is not part of India, okay? Kailash Range is now located in Tibet, which is now known as China. China has conquered Tibet or annexed or invaded Tibet. So we have the Karakoram Range, which parts of it lies in India, okay? Then we have Ladakh Range, parts of it lies in India. The Zanskar Range, also parts of it lies in India. However, the Kailash range is located entirely in Tibet. Remember that. Okay. So if a question arises something like that, out of the given choices, which one of the ranges is not located in India? Which one of the Trans-Himalayan ranges is not located in India? You have Karakoram, Ladakh, Zanskar and Kailash. The answer is the Kailash range. Right? Hopefully you don't get screwed over this question. Okay, so moving on. Now what we are going to do here is we are going to just focus on the Kailash range. Now there is an important thing you have to know. Okay. Now there's a reason that I have connected the Ladakh range with the Kailash range. Okay. The reason is essentially the Kailash range and Ladakh range are basically the same thing. However, there is a gap in between, and that is why many geologists consider Kailash range as different. But technically, Kailash range and Ladakh range are basically the same thing. Let's say Ladakh range is the head, Kailash range is the tail, right? So that is why I'm going to remove the rest of the ranges. Okay. Okay. As you can see, Ladakh and the Kailash range are basically the same thing, head and tails. Okay. Now we are only interested in the Kailash range. Okay. So essentially, to give you a perspective, this is how it looks like. Ladakh range pretty much is located in India. However, if you look closely, Kailash range is essentially entirely in Tibet, right? So let's go deep. Now remember this, kids. Kailash range has three megastructures here. The first one is the Kailash mountain. The second thing is Rakshatal lake. And the third thing is Mansarovar lake. Okay, Kailash, Rakshatal and Mansarovar lake. So these are the three structures located in the Kailash range. Now remember this, Kailash range and Kailash mountain are basically two different things. Kailash mountain is one single structure located in Kailash range. Okay, let's say Kailash range has like 100 mountains in that particular range. Kailash mountain is just one of that particular mountain, right? So we are going to focus on the Kailash mountain. Okay, so as you can see, this is where the Kailash mountain is located. Just look close into the corner. That's the whole of the Kailash range, and then you have the Kailash mountain, right? You can see it. You can see it well. So let's focus on the Kailash mountain. Okay, Kailash mountain is located in Kailash range. Easy to understand. So this is how it looks like. This is the Kailash range, and that's the Kailash mountain. Okay, I think you have understood the whole concept, the difference between the Kailash range and the Kailash mountain. Okay, now remember this, Kailash mountain is not the highest mountain in the Kailash range. I repeat this again, Kailash mountain is not the highest mountain in Kailash range. The highest mountain is something else. Okay, its name is Lunpo Gangri. Okay, the highest mountain in Kailash range is Lunpo Gangri. Okay, so this is the difference in height between Lumpo Gangri and Kailash. Okay, this is the Mount Kailash that we all know. Okay, pretty much everyone in India knows about Mount Kailash, right? This is Lumpo Gangri. Lumpo Gangri is 7,095 meters. However, Kailash range is 6,638 meters. Okay, there is a significant difference in the height levels between Lumpo Gangri and Kailash. However, despite Lumpo Gangri being the tallest in the Kailash range, okay, Kailash range has the star that is the Kailash mountain. Kailash mountain is the brightest star in that particular range. Kailash mountain is the famous one, not Lumpo Gangri. Okay, for example, Himalayas, in the Himalayas, the most important mountain is the Mount Everest, right? However, in the Kailash range, Kailash mountain is the most famous one. Okay, despite Lumpo Gangri being the tallest, Kailash range, in the Kailash range, Kailash mountain is the most famous one. Okay, now we will see the reason why Kailash mountain is more famous than Lumpo Gangri. Okay, you will understand by the end of the video. Now let's focus more on the Kailash range. Okay, I'm sorry, Kailash mountain. So this is the structure, Kailash mountain. Now essentially most of the Indians know that this place, Kailash mountain, is the home or abode of Lord Shiva and his queen Parvati. right? His whole family resides here. That's the legend, that's the myth that we are going with. Okay, now this particular region, the Kailash mountain, is quite, sacred for many religions. Okay, so that's Lord Shiva and his wife, Queen Parvati. Okay, so they both reside here in Mount Kailash, and that's the height. Now, interesting thing that you have to know is Mount Kailash can be seen from India. Okay, from some specific parts, it can be seen from India, despite this mountain not being located in India. Now, when we look into that particular mountain, we can see it as a kind of a crystal. The word crystal in Hindi or Sanskrit means Kailash, and that is why this particular mountain is named after the crystal. Okay, Kailash. Right? Moving on. So, obviously, since it is located in Tibet, it's given a different name. We Indians know it as Mount Kailash, but the Tibetans called it as Gang Rinpoche. Okay, Gang Rinpoche. Now, there are a few more interesting things that you can know of. For instance, this particular region, okay, Mount Kailash, is the source of many different rivers. As you can see, the Indus River rises from this region, somewhere near to Kailash Range or Kailash Mountain. The Satluj River also starts from this part. The Brahmaputra, one of the major tributary of Brahmaputra, which is known as Yarlung Sangpo, also starts from this range. Then we have Karnali River, which is a major tributary of the Ganga, also starts from here. Essentially, all these rivers start from this particular region, and that is why Kailash mountain is more prominent than the tallest mountain in Kailash Range. Right? Just type what is the tallest mountain in Kailash Range. Just type. Okay. So that's the Kailash mountain. In the Kailash Range, you have the Indus River, you have the Satluj River, you have the Karnali River, and you have Yarlung Sampo, which is the Brahmaputra's tributary. So big rivers originate from this particular place. We will look into detail how they or where they originate. Furthermore, there are two important lakes in this region. One is the Mansarovar Lake. Pretty much every Indian know about the Mansarovar Lake. And the second one is the Rakshatal Lake. Two important lakes. We will discuss about them later. Okay. So moving on. Okay. So now remember this. Kailash Range is the only mountain. Okay. Kailash mountain is the only mountain in this world which is not climbed upon. Okay. So many people have tried but failed. Okay. And now in 2001, the Chinese government, they made a prize, let's say, and asked many foreign mountaineers to climb this particular mountain. They asked many foreign mountaineers to climb this mountain. Okay. One of them was Reinhold Messner. This guy is a very famous mountaineer. He has scaled many mountains. But this guy straight away told the Chinese government that he's not going to climb this mountain. The reason is very simple. He doesn't want to offend the souls of many Indians, many Tibetans, many Buddhists, because this particular mountain in Kailash Range is one of the most sacred mountains in the entire world. So this guy didn't want to offend a lot of people, and that is why he straight away said no, he's not going to scale up this mountain. The Chinese government later banned the entry or banned the scaling up of this mountain for some reason, but many people should respect that, right? Despite China being a communist country, despite most of the people there atheists, they simply banned the scaling up or the climbing up on this mountain. Okay, they recognized the feelings of many of the religions, despite them being atheists. Right now, we are interested in knowing that this particular region, as I mentioned, is quite important for not just Hindus. Okay, it's important for Buddhists, it's important for Jains, and it's important for Bon. Now remember, Bon religion is basically Buddhism in Tibet. Okay, Bon religion is basically Buddhism in Tibet. So essentially, remember this particular region, not just Mount Kailash, but also the two important lakes, that is the Mansarovar Lake and the lake Rakshatal. As you can see, there are two lakes. This particular region that's covering the Mount Kailash and the lakes is important for Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, as well as Bon religion. So clearly now you can easily locate where Mount Kailash is and where the Lake Rakshatal and Lake Mansarovar is. Okay. If you are not able to process Lake Rakshatal or Lake Mansarovar, I will help you. Okay. So let's focus on Lake Rakshatal and Lake Mansarovar. So as I mentioned, the Kailash range is divided or not divided. We are going to discuss about three structures located in Kailash range. First one we have discussed is the Kailash mountain. The second one is Rakshatal lake and the third one will be Mansarovar lake. Let's discuss about the Rakshatal lake, right? So let's go to Tibet. So this is Mount Kailash and that's the whole Kailash range, and there you can find there two lakes. One of them is Rakshatal lake and the second one is the Mansarovar lake. At this point, we are interested only in the Rakshatal lake, right? Now remember this, these two lakes have very different symmetries. Rakshatal lake is entirely made up of salt, while the Mansarovar lake, which is located at the adjacent or next to it, is completely fresh water. There is no detailed scientific explanation why this happens, why Rakshatal lake is made up of salt. However, why, despite being close or despite being adjacent to Rakshatal lake, Lake Mansarovar is fresh water? No one really have understood this mechanism. Anyway, so that's Mount Kailash and that's Rakshatal lake, right? And Rakshatal lake is saltwater lake. Remember that. Now remember, this is how the geometry looks like. As you can see, that's India and that's the Tibet plateau, right? And that's the Rakshatal lake and that's the Mount Kailash. Now it is a very high altitude lake. It's located around 4.5 kilometers above sea level. So it's one of the highest altitude lakes in the region. Okay, so that's pretty important. Rakshatal lake is located at very high altitude, very high. It's located very high at quite a distance, 4.5 kilometers above sea level, quite a distance, right? Now, important things that you have to know is that according to the myths or according to the legends, why Rakshatal is a saltwater lake. This is because obviously you are familiar with Lord, let's say, Ravana. Okay, you know the story of Lord Rama and Sita. You obviously know about Ravana. Okay, so he made, an offering to Lord Shiva that he must give him immortality in exchange for something. Or he mediated a lot in this particular region around Lake Rakshatal. And that is why, to this date, this lake has become salt water. Earlier it was fresh water, but now it has become salt water. That's the myth that we are going to go with, because the science can't explain at this point what's the reason why this particular lake is salt water. Ravana mediated to Lord Shiva around this lake. Right? Now moving on. Now this particular lake is, as usual, formed by the glacial activity. As you can see, the ice has melted and it is pouring in to this particular lake. But despite this, no one knows why it's salt water. Right? It's because of the glacial activity. This particular lake was formed because there was a shallow structure already there, and most of the glaciers, when they melted into water, they just filled up this particular lake. Okay, so that became Rakshatal lake. Now moving on, we see the Satluj River. It originates from this particular lake, right? The river Satluj originates around or from this particular lake, right? Now to give you a perspective, I'm just going to show you the entire navigation part of Satluj. So this is how river Satluj looks like, okay? And as you can see, this is how river Satluj look like, okay? First, it starts around Lake Rakshatal. It goes into India and eventually it falls into the Indus River. Okay, that's Satluj, right? Okay, that's river Satluj. Moving on. So as you can see, these are the two lakes. One's It is the Rakshatal Lake, and the second one is the Mansarovar Lake. Now there is a small stream called as Gangachu, which actually connects the Rakshatal Lake as well as the Mansarovar Lake. Okay, Gangachu, which connects the Rakshatal Lake and the Mansarovar Lake. Quite an important fact. Okay, this is a very short river, and it's not exactly perennial. Okay, however, it connects Rakshatal Lake and the Mansarovar Lake. All right, now moving on to the third part, that is the Mansarovar Lake. Okay, we have discussed the Kailash mountain, we have discussed the Rakshatal Lake. Now we are going to focus on the Mansarovar Lake. So this particular lake you have pretty much known, because since you are an Indian, you already know about Kailash mountain and the Mansarovar Lake, right? Let's discuss few more important things. So Mansarovar Lake is a freshwater lake. However, Rakshatal Lake is a saltwater lake. That's the difference. Okay, despite being adjacent to each other, despite being the same region, one of them is a saltwater lake, one of them is a freshwater lake. Science is not able to explain this. Now it is connected to the Rakshatal Lake by a channel or by a stream called as Gangachu, or by a river called as Gangachu. Right? Now, like Rakshatal Lake, it's located around 4.5 kilometers above the sea level. Okay, so that's the Mansarovar Lake, and the yellow structure is the Tibetan Plateau. Right? So, as you can see, Satluj starts from Lake Rakshatal. Okay, as you can see, that's the whole of the Kailash Range. That's the Kailash mountain, and as you can see, there's a small tributary of Indus that's going in. Okay, so that's where the Indus River starts. So that's Indus River. Okay, now what we are going to show you, okay, so that's the Indus River. Okay, and let me show you the entire stretch, how the Indus River starts from Mansarovar and goes through India and then into Pakistan. So this is how it looks like. So that's the Kailash Range. Okay, and as you can see, that's the Indus River. Okay, so that's the Indus River. Satluj also falls into Indus. They both rise from the same place. Satluj and Indus, they both rise from the same place, and after traveling like thousands of kilometers, they actually merge back in Pakistan. They start from China, Tibet, and they go through India and merge in Pakistan. So the question is, why bother doing this? If they had to merge, they just could have merged in China itself, right? Why go through all these and merge in Pakistan? Apparently nature likes it that way. All right, so we have, there's an important thing to discuss. As you can see, that's the area where the Indus Valley civilization flourished. Okay, that's the area in yellow where the Indus Valley civilization flourished. Okay, now this is going to come in handy because there's a small concept that I have to discuss with you with regards to history. So that's where the Indus civilization was located, and as you can see, that's the Saraswati River. Okay, that's the Saraswati River. Okay, now the Saraswati River does not exist. Okay, Indus River exists, the Satluj River exists, the Saraswati River does not exist, but back 2000 years ago it existed. Right, now there are some more rivers that you have to understand. So as you can see, there are some more rivers that you will learn later, or if you know, you already know some of these rivers. These are the Ravi River, the Bas River, the Bias River, Chambal, and all those stuff. So the point is when the Rigvedic Aryans came to this region, they actually prospered in this particular area. Okay, this particular area was known as the region of Sapta Sindhu. Okay, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are like 7 rivers. Sapta Sindhu, Sindhu means river, Sapta means 7. This region was the region where the Rigvedic Aryans prospered. First, the Indus River. Okay, you are already familiar with the Indus River. That's where the Indus Valley civilization flourished. Okay, this is where the Indus Valley civilization flourished. Okay, this is where the Indus Valley civilization flourished. Later, in the Sapta Sindhu region, okay, in the Sapta Sindhu region, the Rigvedic Aryans flourished. Okay, so as you can see, we are slowly moving towards the east. Okay, now let's once again go back to the system, the Kailash Range and all. Okay. Now, once again, there is an important river that's going to originate from here. Okay. And this river is known as Yarlan Sangpo, which is an important tributary of Brahmaputra River. So, it also rises from this particular region, that is the Mansarovar Lake. Okay. Brahmaputra River and the Indus River actually starts from this particular region, that is the Mansarovar Lake. Okay. So, this is how the Brahmaputra River looks like. Okay. So, this is the Brahmaputra River. Okay. This is the Brahmaputra River. The entire Brahmaputra River you can see. You can see all these start from that particular region. That's pretty interesting, right? I don't know how nature does all these things. Beautiful. It starts from there, and it's the cause of so many civilizations. The Indus River, the Ganga River, the Brahmaputra River, all these rivers have the origin here, and it is the reason why we Indians exist. Right? So, there's another important river that we have to discuss, which again rises from here only. Okay, there is another important river called as River Karnali. Okay, so this is the River Karnali. Okay, it rises from here. Okay, River Karnali rises from here. This happens to be a major tributary of River Ganga. Okay, River Karnali rises from the same region. Okay, Lake Rakshatal, and this happens to be a major tributary of Ganga. So this is how it looks like. So this is River Karnali River. Okay, as you can see, that's the River Karnali. Okay, and this is Ganga. Okay, this is Ganga River. Awesome. So once again, let's go into the past. As you can see, this region, okay, mentioned in green, is the region where the Mahajanapadas flourished, or let's say where the Mauryan kingdoms flourished, right? So as you can see, the whole of Ganga and Karnali River is populated by many different kingdoms, which eventually became empires. So first in yellow, that is the Indus River, led to the start of Indus Valley civilization. Then came the region in between called as the Saptasindhu, which prospered, which helped Rigvedic Aryans to prosper. Then moving towards the east, in green you have the later Mahajanapadas and the great Mauryan kingdoms. So this particular area flourished by the Indus River, the Satluj River, the Ganga River. All these were quite important for history.